Joining us now is a congressional candidate running in Illinois' 1st District, Robert Emmons Jr. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, John.
Good to have you here. I'm excited to talk about the district, the history of the district, and also your candidacy, because it's pretty unique even amongst other younger runs. You're a 26-year-old candidate running against an incumbent who has been in office for literally your entire life. What is that like?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's truly an honor to be a 26-year-old young person from the South Side of Chicago, advocating to make this the very last generation to be faced with everyday gun violence. And there's also a certain level of just honor to be able to represent a constituency that's so resilient, like the people of the 1st Congressional District. This is a district that was represented by one of the first Black mayors of a major city, Mayor Harold Washington. President Barack Obama ran for this seat in 2000 against this exact same incumbent. And back in 2000, he was saying the same things that I'm saying now, and that it's time for change, and that the current incumbent has lost touch with the constituents. So you can only imagine what the last 20 years has looked like if 20 years ago the President Barack Obama was saying the same thing. And it's just, like I said, it's just a huge honor and a blessing to be able to advocate for progressive change here in this district. And the people of the 1st District, they've been resonating with the message, which has been inspiring. And our total philosophy is that we don't have a monopoly on best ideas. That's where our campaign slogan is: we are the solution together. It means that not one person is going to solve all these problems. It's going to take the entire community actively engaging towards social justice. So it's been pretty cool. I'll say it in short. It's been amazing. It's been amazing.
So you mentioned there the gun violence, and would you consider that a core issue for your candidacy? I know that you've talked about your own personal experience of losing someone very close to you through gun violence.
Yeah, it is absolutely core to our campaign, John. And we've been talking about everyday gun violence. A lot of time in the national media, we talk about the mass shootings that happen all around the country, which are tragedies. But we also need to talk about the everyday gun violence that occurs in my community on the South Side of Chicago. We need to talk about how, in order to solve gun violence, we got to take a comprehensive approach to it. We got to talk about a living wage. We got to talk about universal pre-K. We got to talk about ending mass incarceration. All of these issues are interconnected. That means the solutions have to be interconnected as well, like the Green New Deal and Medicare for All. And that's what we've been fighting for here on this campaign. Like you said, it is something that's deeply, deeply personal to me and my community. And there's nothing in this world that's going to stop me from talking about everyday gun violence and the solutions thereof until we can live into a world in which we don't have to, because there is no more everyday gun violence in our communities.
You mentioned there the Green New Deal. Your opponent, Bobby Rush, he said that the Green New Deal was a, quote, media creation like Bigfoot. What do you think about that?
The Green New Deal is an that was championed by folks like AOC, is a resolution that aspires to right the wrongs of our country and reverse the impacts of climate change, so we have a world that we can actually live into in 20, 30 years from now that looks better than what we have right now. It will create jobs and benefit our communities economically. So for the sitting member of Congress, one in a very safe Democratic district, to say that it's a smash and grab, is that it's a media creation similar to Bigfoot, is an injustice in and of itself, and it doesn't represent the interests or the ideas of the people of the 1st Congressional District. And like we've been saying over and over and over again in this campaign, the current incumbent is out of touch, so it's time we need to get him out of office if he isn't going to represent the interests of our people.
So I want to ask you a question I ask almost all the candidates that come on that aren't currently holding office. Congress just came back into session this week after a number of different mass shootings, concerns over corruption in the Trump administration, a number of high-profile issues. If you were already holding this seat, what would you have spent this week working on in DC?
I would have spent this week working on bringing in the entirety of our country. As we go around the district, what we are saying is that we are gun violence prevention advocates with the emphasis on prevention. Every single law-abiding citizen in this country should be gun violence prevention advocates, whether you are a staunch Second Amendment right supporter or not. What we are saying in this campaign is we support your right to bear arms, but you also have a responsibility to arm yourself with forward thinking, a responsibility to arm yourself with love and compassion, a responsibility to take care of your community and your family. So that's why we want you to be a gun violence prevention advocate. We gotta talk. We gotta be on the same page in this country if we're truly gonna end everyday gun violence and mass shootings around this country. 100,000 people per year are either wounded or killed by a gun every single year. In 10 years, there's going to be 1 million Americans that will have been directly impacted by gun violence, not to count the countless people that will be tangentially impacted by gun violence. This is an existential crisis, and we got to solve it. We got to solve it. Generations to come are counting on us to make decisions right now that are going to make their lives safer.
Well, Robert, taking on a 26-year incumbent, it's a bold candidacy. Where can people find out more about your stance on the issues?
Absolutely. So you can find more about our campaign on robertemmons.org. That's EMMONS.org. And then you can also take a look at our Twitter at remmons2020, and the same thing with Instagram and Facebook. We would love to get involved, donate, time to volunteer. We need all hands on deck if we're going to truly change this country once and for all.
Robert Emmons Jr., thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Here on the Damage Report, we talk a lot about the big banks and their ways of getting rich off the poor. They saturate the market, but there are other options. And I've got info on a socially and environmentally responsible financial institution that has no ATM fees, gives you cash back on every purchase. They even commit 10% of their earnings to charity. It's called Aspiration, and if you go to aspiration.com/TYT to sign up, you'll get these perks, and that's more money to spend or to save or to spend. Just treat yourself.